In the midst of America's civil rights struggle, two voices rose above the chaos, each fighting for freedom, but walking different paths to reach it. One preached nonviolent resistance and integration, the other advocated self-defense and black nationalism. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X never formally debated, but their opposing philosophies shaped the course of history. Tonight, we imagine that debate, a conversation that never happened, but whose echoes still resonate today.
You know, I've been thinking about something my daughter asked me yesterday. She said, "Daddy, why do people hate us?" That question haunts me. But what haunts me more is how we answer it. Do we answer hatred with hatred? Or do we answer it with love?
Love? Brother, let me tell you what love got us. 3 days ago, they found a boy's body in Mississippi, beaten so bad his own mama couldn't recognize him. That's what your love gets us.
Brother Malcolm speaks of love as if it's weakness, but I tell you, love is the strongest force in the universe. It takes more strength to love your enemy than to hate them, more courage to meet violence with peace than to respond in kind.
No, let me finish. Dr. King here wants us to sing "We Shall Overcome" while they're putting ropes around our necks. I say it's time to stop singing and start swinging. Every time you turn on the news, another one of our brothers or sisters is dead. And what's your response? Pray for those who persecute you. I say it's time we pray for ourselves.
Now hold on just a minute. You make it sound like we're just out there humming hymns. Ask the people who faced down Bull Connor's dogs if nonviolence is passive. Ask the children who walked into those mobs in Little Rock if it was easy. That's not passivity. Brother, that's courage.
You talk about Montgomery like it's some great victory. Let me tell you what I see. I see them letting us ride their buses while they still control the bus company. I see them letting us eat at their lunch counters while they still own the restaurant. That's not progress. That's patronizing.
You speak of self-defense, but let me ask you this. How do you defend yourself against hatred? How do you shoot down prejudice? The weapons you speak of might protect a man for a moment, but they won't protect a people for eternity.
There you go with that word again. When we defend ourselves, it's violence. When they lynch us, it's law and order. The hypocrisy is stunning. When America drops bombs on other countries, they call it democracy. When we protect our homes, they call it terrorism.
You mentioned Montgomery like it was nothing, but those people who walked for 381 days weren't just fighting for a bus seat. They were fighting for their dignity, and they won it, not with guns, but with the strength of their character.
No, but you can make them think twice about acting on that prejudice. Look here, if a man's got his foot on your neck, you don't ask him nicely to move it. You move it. And all this talk about turning the other cheek. How many cheeks do we have left to turn? How many more bodies do we need to bury?
Now you know that's not what I'm saying. But answer me this. What has violence ever solved? You can't shoot segregation. You can't stab poverty. You can't bomb prejudice out of people's hearts. The only way to eliminate an enemy is to make them your friend.
A society? What society? The same one that shot Medgar Evers in his own driveway? The same one that blew up those 4 little girls in Birmingham? The same one that hunts our children like animals? Don't talk to me about society till we have one.
I was there. I helped pull bodies from that church. You think I don't feel that pain? You think I don't understand that rage? But I refuse, I absolutely refuse to let their hatred turn me into what they are. Violence creates more social problems than it solves. You might win a temporary victory, but you create new enemies in the process. And those enemies have children who inherit their hatred.
You want to know the difference between us, Doctor? You're asking them to accept us. I'm telling us to accept ourselves. You're asking for integration into a burning house. I'm saying let's build our own house.
And then what? What happens the next day? And the day after that? We're trying to create a society here, Malcolm. Not just win a fight. We're trying to create a world where our children can live in peace.
See, that's where you lose me. You're worried about becoming what they are. I'm worried about our people surviving what they do. And let me be clear, self-defense is not violence. It's intelligence. It's the natural law of the universe. Even a mouse fights back when it's cornered.
We must meet physical force with soul force. You speak of survival, but I'm talking about something greater. I'm talking about redemption, not just for us, but for them too. Because as long as they remain our oppressors, they are not free either.
You talk about dreams, Doctor, But our people are living in a nightmare. You're telling them to wait for the nightmare to end. I'm telling them to wake up. Every time you preach patience, they take it as permission to keep oppressing us.
But survival isn't enough. I want our children to thrive, not just survive. I want them to be able to look their oppressors in the eye and say, I love you anyway. That's not weakness, that's the ultimate strength. You talk about building our own house, but America is our house too. We helped build it, brick by brick, dollar by dollar, drop by drop of our sweat and blood. We're not asking for integration. We're demanding what's already ours.
Love you anyway? Brother, please. I want our children to be able to look anybody in the eye and say, don't you dare touch me. That's freedom. And if anybody puts their hands on them, I want them to know they have the right, no, the duty to defend themselves. Integration is not the answer. You can integrate a cup of black coffee into a gallon of white milk, but the coffee loses its essential character. That's what they want, to dissolve us until we disappear.
When you speak of self-defense, you're talking about protecting the body. I'm talking about protecting the soul, because violence doesn't just harm the victim, it corrupts the perpetrator.
Let me tell you something about nonviolence. The only people who are nonviolent in America are black people. And what has it gotten us? More violence against us. You can't fight a wolf with a prayer book. That's exactly my point. You can't build anything on a foundation of lies. And the biggest lie is that they'll ever see us as human beings just because we ask nicely. They didn't ask nicely when they put us on those ships. They didn't ask nicely when they sold our children.
Let me tell you something about freedom. Freedom isn't just breaking chains. It's what you do after the chains are broken. It's building something new. And you can't build peace with the tools of war.
Power respects power. That's the only language they understand. I'm not talking about violence. I'm talking about strength, about dignity, about refusing to beg for what's rightfully ours.
You say, power respects power. I say power without love is reckless. Love without power is sentimental. Power at its best is love implementing the demands of justice.
History proves you don't get your freedom by appealing to the moral center of the people oppressing you. Name one nation that ever got its freedom through passive resistance. It doesn't exist.
Brother Malcolm, when you speak of by any means necessary, you give the oppressor justification for their brutality. They want us to react with violence. They're experts at violence, but they don't know how to handle love.
Dr. King wants to change hearts. I want to change conditions. Maybe we need both. But what we can't do is wait. Every moment we wait, another black mother loses her child. Another black man disappears into their prison system.
The arc of history is long, but it bends toward justice. And it bends not through violence, but through the steady application of our ideals, through persistence, through faith, through love.
The time for singing and praying is over. The time for action is now. By any means necessary, and I mean any means necessary to secure our dignity, our safety, our future. That's not hatred. That's love. Love for ourselves.
You know, despite our differences, Brother Malcolm and I want the same thing. We want our people to stand tall. We just choose different ways to raise them up. I choose love because hate is too heavy a burden to bear. I choose nonviolence not because I'm afraid to fight, but because I'm brave enough not to. We shall overcome, not by matching violence with violence, hatred with hatred, but by matching their capacity to inflict suffering with our capacity to endure suffering. We shall wear them down with our love.
These two men, often portrayed as opposites, shared more than history remembers. Both were killed before reaching 40, assassinated for daring to challenge the status quo. Both fought tirelessly for black dignity and human rights. Their methods differed, but their goal was the same: freedom. Malcolm X and Dr. King never got the chance to reconcile their differences or see their dreams fulfilled. But their debate continues in every generation that must choose between the path of peace and the path of resistance. The question they wrestled with still echoes. In the face of injustice, what is the right way forward? Perhaps the answer lies not in choosing between their visions, but in understanding why we needed both.